every 20 minutes. It's your statewide Alabama weathercast.
Good afternoon, I'm meteorologist Drew McCombs with the Alabama Weather Network, and this is your afternoon forecast update for the whole state. And we've got just some scattered clouds around and maybe a few sprinkles in spots. We're starting to see a little bit more sunshine break through the clouds, though, especially up in the Tennessee Valley, getting a lot more sunshine than we were seeing earlier this morning. And still down in the southern part of the state and towards the coast, getting lots of sunshine still as they're warming up. And we have had a couple of reports of a few little sprinkles out there. Sandra Kirkwood in Newmarket, one of our sky watchers, reported that she did feel a few sprinkles earlier. And Joshua Vest in Moody, another one of our sky watchers, had the same. So is verifying that there's a few sprinkles out there, but there's probably plenty of this that is still virga and not reaching the ground with this dry air mass in place. All right, looking at our sky cams, beautiful views across a number of parts of the state. Huntsville at 72 degrees with a dew point of 53 with blue skies starting to break out now. So this is about as nice as you can get in August, that's for sure. As we move down towards Mount Cheaha, beautiful view from atop the summit there. And you can see that it's 69 degrees, so a little bit cooler with that elevation, with the dew point at 57 degrees, a little bit of a northwesterly breeze at 2 miles per hour. And then further to the south as we go to Spanish Fort, definitely a good bit warmer there where there's been more sunshine and a warmer start. It's 85 degrees right now with the dew point in the 60s. So still, for this area and for this time of year, dew point in the 60s is really nice, and it's a comfortable day across the state. And so again, it's nice. There's a few sprinkles in spots today, but generally a pretty nice day. And then as we get into tomorrow, it's going to be a cool start. We're expecting 50s for North Alabama as we get into tomorrow morning, 60s across the south. Could break records in a couple of spots. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And then showers as we get into Thursday and Friday. We'll start to talk about that a little bit more here as well. So temperatures right now, as you look across the state, we're getting into the 80s, especially in kind of the southern and southwestern part of the state. 87 in Thomasville, 85 in Demopolis. Looks like Monroeville has hit 90 degrees, and same thing in Chatham. As you move to the north, though, where there was a cooler start and we've had a little bit more clouds, we're in the 70s at 78 in Alex City, 77 in Coleman. And looking at your election day forecast, got municipal elections happening across the state today. And again, in North Alabama, expecting to top out in the upper 70s around 80 degrees. Again, sunshine starting to break out a little bit more. And as we move through the rest of the evening, getting pretty cool there. And you can see by as we get in the overnight hours, getting down into the 50s already. And then for South Alabama, again, going to be approaching 90 or getting to 90 in a lot of spots. Plenty of sunshine, and it'll still be fairly warm, but a lot more comfortable as we get through the rest of the evening, and then cooling off into those 70s and 60s overnight. All right, your forecast lows, though, for tonight. Again, let's just talk about the specific numbers we're kind of expecting across the state. Could get down to around 54 degrees in Coleman, 55 in Huntsville, 58 in Birmingham, maybe around 62 in Montgomery. Again, 50s to the north, 60 to the south, but again, very much below average for this time of year. And let's take a look at some records here. So we'll look at a couple of different spots, or 3 different spots where we expect possibility of breaking the record. So in Huntsville, these are the top 10 lowest temperatures on record. So you can see the record is a 52 degree reading in 1945. And so again, we're forecasting within a few degrees of that, and we could certainly, and I think we most likely will get into this top 10 list with 2025. So possible we'll do that in Huntsville. Birmingham might be the one that we're most likely to break, as we're forecasting basically to be right there near the record territory. It's been 58 degrees for the lowest temperature multiple years there. So I think for sure, again, we'll get on this list and we'll see if we actually break it or tie it. And then for Montgomery, forecasting around 62 degrees. So again, we'll be in the ballpark. We'll see what happens. But I think, again, we'll probably end up with 2025 on the top 10 list as well. Futurecast as we get into the rest of the afternoon. Again, clouds still around in spots, but sunshine breaking out otherwise. Really barely anything on the radar like we talked about before. And then Wednesday just looks really beautiful. Cool start. Beautiful day across the board. Not expecting any sort of rain. As we get further into Thursday, then we start to see some showers coming in. And as we get into the middle part of the day on Thursday, could get a few heavier showers starting to move into the area. And again, we could see several rounds of showers as we get into Thursday and Friday. And in fact, the Weather Prediction Center has issued a slight risk of flash flooding in kind of the northwestern corner of the state, places like Hamilton, even Tuscaloosa, and points to the west up towards the Shoals in this yellow area here. Rest of kind of the northern 2/3 of Alabama and this kind of typical marginal risk. And this just means that by the time we get to Thursday, there's a possibility there could be some heavier rain and embedded with some of this coming in with this next system. But again, we'll keep an eye on this. Not expecting to have to worry about it too much at this point, but just something to keep an eye on as we get into Thursday and Friday with that reinforcing next system. Okay, so we've still got some action, or at least a little bit in the tropics to look at, and that's Tropical Storm Fernand at this point, which has an exposed circulation, getting a little bit of convection starting to fire back up with it, but this is expected to, as it continues to move off to the northeast, to continue to weaken and become a post-tropical system here within the next 12 to 24 hours. So again, we'll go ahead and move it off to sea and not worry about it. And the good thing about the rest of the tropics and at least the Atlantic is that there is nothing we are watching right now for development. So you see no areas across the Atlantic basin that are being watched by the NHC for any sort of development over the next week. This was the wave we were watching over the last week or so, thinking it might have a chance of developing a little bit, but it has stayed pretty disorganized as it moves west in the Caribbean. Not expecting any issues in the Gulf in the next 7 days as well. So definitely good thing to see this time of year. And this is also another good thing to see as we continue to look at our outlooks for the next week to 10 days. We're seeing still more blues on here. So maybe not quite as cool as we're going to be getting to this morning as we get into next week, but it's still very likely that we're going to be below normal over basically the entire state. Okay, your 7-day forecast for North Alabama. Again, we'll get into around 80 degrees, upper 70s really in the northern part of the state as we get through the day today. And then beautiful day tomorrow with the cool start. And then again, we start to increase the rain chances a little bit as we head towards the weekend. Although the weekend still looks pretty good. Overall, the temperatures are kind of moderating a little bit, but still staying below seasonal norms. And then as we get into South Alabama, again, could be getting in the upper 80s to 90 degrees in some spots already. But beautiful next couple of days before heavier rain chances getting into not as much on Thursday and Friday in the south part of the state, or at least Thursday for the south part of the state as we are expecting in the northern part of the state. But the weekend does look a little bit wetter in the southern part of the state. All right, that is your forecast for the state for right now. We'll have another one coming up later on the Alabama Weather Network.